It doesn't happen to me all that often, but there have been instances where I get to drive the exact same year, make, and model of vehicle within a very short period of time. And as you can clearly see by what's sitting next to me, that is exactly what has happened yet again, because Mazda, in their infinite wisdom, felt I deserved another round with the 2025 CX90. Although this one is a far cry from the Turbo S Premium Plus that you guys saw me driving a few weeks ago, because up here on the fender and on the badge in the back, this one says PHEV. Yep, this is the plug-in hybrid CX90, and as much as I would love to do another full-on review of this thing covering every inch in full detail, that wasn't exactly the first idea that popped into my head when the company told me they were going to send me this car. You see, right now it's a little before 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is absolutely freezing out here in North Houston already, which means only one thing. We are already deep into the midst of the holiday season, and most families who have cars like this are usually doing one of two things. They're either going to work and trying to catch up on overtime hours, or they're going to be doing what I'm going to do today, and that's go holiday shopping. So let's go. All right, we have made it after just a few minutes on the road to our first shopping destination up here at Deerbrook Mall in North Houston, Texas. Now, today has been a little bit of a fail day already, if I'm honest. The first fail happened when I tried to charge up the car at the EVgo charging station, which is right outside of my neighborhood. Unfortunately, the plug on that charging station's cable would not actually hook up to the CX90, so I had to find an alternative. But thankfully, here at Deerbrook Mall, they actually have Shell recharge stations right out here outside of the Macy's. So now, thanks to just a quick download of the Shell app and putting in my card information, I am now able to charge this car up to 26 miles of electric driving capability. Which brings me to my first point. Not only was the car needing to recharge, but I was as well. So thankfully I have a Prime Berry Freeze to help rejuvenate my hydration, but you know, not a sponsor, just really enjoy these things. But I really wanted to experience this car from both ends of the spectrum. So I drove it up here on gas power alone, but now I want to see what it's like driving in electric power on a full charge. So hopefully the EV power will last at least enough for me to get to my next destination, and maybe I might have to alternate between the two. But now the wait continues, because the second fail happened when I showed up here at a little after 9 o'clock, only to realize that the mall opens at 10. Well, I certainly hope those fails from earlier weren't an omen of things to come, because, well, I just spent about an hour inside of the mall, and unfortunately the one main store I wanted to go to didn't have the item I was looking for. So now I got to make a few phone calls to see if any of the other of the same stores in the area have what I'm looking for. But what's not a fail is, well, at least getting this car up to a decent charge. The only problem is the service station right here, well, the plug didn't want to release from the car. Even though I told it to stop charging and everything, it still did not want to give up its plug from actually charging the car. But thankfully, I was able to get it released. So now, if we actually go get in the car, you can see now I have approximately 20 miles worth of electric charge. So not too shabby for only about 45 minutes to an hour worth of charging this thing up. But now, after making a few phone calls, like I said, it's off to the next spot. Okay, so maybe making phone calls wasn't such a good idea, because unfortunately I didn't really get anybody on the other end of the line, but I'm not so much worried about that right now because thankfully, I'm also on my way to go pick up gifts for my mom and my sister, which thankfully, the two gifts that they requested from me are actually available at a store that is right across the highway from Deerbrook Mall here. So just got to wait for this morning traffic to subside a little bit. And then afterwards, it's on the way to a place I don't go very often, but thankfully, I'm glad they have what I want. Well, I guess that wasn't so much of a fail, and I should say mission complete, because gift number one has been acquired. Also happened to find myself in a certain section at World Market where picked up one of my favorite treats, a Japanese Pepsi Big Cola. I'm definitely going to need that caffeine considering how mentally drained I already feel, even though it wasn't that busy in the mall, let alone that busy over in that store. But anyways, I guess considering, this is supposed to be a quote-unquote review of some kind, I guess there are a good few things to talk about with the plug-in hybrid CX90 compared to the Turbo S Premium Plus that I drove before. The first of which is obviously the range. Now, like I said, Mazda says 26 miles can happen on electric power alone, but the total range, gas and electric combined, is almost 500 miles. That is a huge payoff when it comes to driving a pretty sizable mid-size crossover, to say the least. Now, it's not as powerful as the Turbo S, but it gets pretty close. The whole system makes 323 horsepower and 369 foot-pounds of torque. And I gotta say, just getting out of the hole, let the all-wheel drive do its thing. I mean, it definitely gets there, and one thing I'm very happy about is that I don't have a CVT transmission in this one. I cannot begin to tell you how much the CVT really is just, it wears on your sense of hearing while you're driving. It's not for me. But it still feels like it has the same ride qualities and the same driving dynamics as the Turbo S, so it really doesn't lose anything by becoming a plug-in hybrid, but the only thing it gains is $2,000 more in its final selling price compared to a fully loaded Premium Plus. This particular one ranks in at almost $60,000 even. I think it's like 59 grand and some change. So to say the very least, if you are going to spend a little bit more money to get that plug-in hybrid sort of feeling, it's not bad, but I will say it doesn't feel as well equipped as the Turbo S. I will tell you there's not, Alcantara and leather in here. I've still got the heated steering wheel, heated seats, heated and cooled seats for that matter. I mean, I've got pretty much everything else that the Turbo S had, just minus the inline six and minus a few little niceties on the interior. So there are some trade-offs, but all in all, I can't really complain too terribly much about this thing. So now we're on a little bit of a longer trip here, and I guess the other thing that was a big drawback for the inline six variation was the road noise. But I guess it was because I was driving it on some pretty rough surfaces. It wasn't exactly the greatest road to drive on for me, but I'm now doing about 65 miles an hour, and honestly, I don't even feel like I need to shout in here. And at the same time, the road noise really isn't as intrusive, which is odd because, I mean, they're basically the same car, just one has a big extra set of batteries to go with it so that you can drive on electric power. That is weird. I don't know. Maybe I might have just been going deaf at the time, or maybe I am going deaf now, but onward and upward we go, because now we got to make a little bit more of a sizable trip to a whole different mall on the other side of Houston to go see if I can find that one item I was trying to track down over here at Deerbrook. All right, so finally, after driving through all of that traffic and just about tearing my hair out with some of those Houston drivers, we have arrived at Willowbrook Mall. Boy, did I ever have to drive to get to this place, but hopefully this place should have exactly what I'm looking for. Now, unfortunately, the only thing I don't see around here is any kind of electric vehicle charger, and it's maybe because I'm parked in the wrong spot, but unfortunately, yeah, I used up that entire EV charge just to get over here across to the northwest side of Houston. So, yeah, guess we're down to gas power until I can find another charger, but car's locked. Let's go inside. Well, another mall, another failure. I swear that's gonna end up being the theme of this entire video. I went Christmas shopping in a new Mazda CX90 and it was a failure. I don't get it. So I'm now headed back over towards my side of town, and after taking a mixture of city streets, highways, frontage roads, or feeder roads, however you wanna call them, I honestly think you could not fault the CX90 for being an absolutely brilliant vehicle to drive. Now, I know I sound like a presenter from Top Gear, but let's face facts. I mean, still under $60,000, even though it's just by a fraction for this plug-in hybrid model. And I'm not gonna lie, I would absolutely drive one of these every single day. Now, is it worth it to me personally? It's paying the extra $2,000 over a Turbo S to have the plug-in hybrid system? Well, it's a bit mixed for me because only 26 miles worth of electric range. If I was just to drive this car back and forth between my job, I could probably do it. I could feasibly see myself driving on just pure electric power. The problem is, for one, I felt like the electric power drained way too quickly, and it may just be the way I'm driving, I don't know, but I feel like I had a little bit more of an involved and a more fun experience driving the Premium Plus Turbo S. If you're somebody who doesn't need to drive very far, but you need all the room, sure, plug-in hybrid all the way. But if you do a lot more driving and you want to save that extra $2,000, I honestly would just get the Turbo S instead. That's just the plain facts of it. But all the same though, as we continue to just loaf along through traffic at less than 10 miles an hour right now, honestly, I cannot, I'll say it again, I cannot fault the CX90 for being an absolutely beautiful 3-row mid-size crossover, and still a good bit of an underdog compared to a lot of the upper end brands that most people would expect to pay, you know, $60,000 or even $70,000 for. So in the end, I'd guess the CX90 is one of those cars you either love it or you hate it. For me, I love it. To those of you who don't like it, well, you might need to spend more time in one like I have.